All right, welcome everyone. Today is Wednesday, the 20th of September, 2023, and this is the Kubernetes API Server Network Proxy meeting. This meeting is a subproject of SIG Cloud Provider, which is also we follow Kubernetes SIG's community guidelines, which basically means please treat everyone as you would expect to be treated, explicitly so. Please be kind to each other. And if you'd like to talk, please raise your hand and I'll call on you. But there's really few of us in here, so it shouldn't be that big a deal. So it looks like Imran's added a couple topics to the agenda for today. So please, Imran, take it away with the first topic.
So I had a question on the 0.1.4 tag PR that I created on Kubernetes repo, and it needed a rebase. So I was trying to get to that, and I found out that why are these the commands that we run? So if you scroll down, the step number 4, I guess, the pin dependency, yeah, these 3 commands, hack pin dependency, hack update code gen. Why are these not idempotent? Because even after running those commands, and I tried to run it again just to make sure that everything was all correct, I still saw some changes in the Git repo.
That is a great question. I have not run those scripts personally. I don't know. Yeah, Joseph, please.
I can take an initial stab at this. And let's see, I see we have Tim Auclair, so you could also maybe check me for accuracy. The first one, pin dependency, seems like it should be idempotent as long as we don't change a given network proxy tag, which we certainly shouldn't do. But the other 2, update code gen, update vendor, I think these scripts, this is a KK question. Those scripts touch go mod files and blast a bunch of files into a sort of vendor directory. So it's pretty common in my experience to get merge conflicts with like anybody else who did a similar PR. It's kind of frustrating, but I think that's a KK piece of friction, and we're just using that command as a client dependency of APIServer.
Just to point out one thing, I did try to run the pin dependency script second time after committing the changes when I ran the first time, and I could still see diffs, after running the second time. So
you ran just the pin dependency multiple times and got different outcomes?
Yes, I didn't run multiple times. I said not more than 2 times. So, for the second time, I didn't expect any changes to happen.
Oh, I see. So like you wanted to repeat it, but without necessarily getting to a clean state.
Yeah. So what I thought was, when I ran it for the first time, I thought, okay, now everything I have committed it, and let me just run it again just to make sure that everything is all good. I shouldn't see any diff changes since I've already committed the changes, but I saw them. So that's where my question went. Like, this should be idempotent.
I guess maybe we should open an issue on the repo to follow up on this then, just to kind of record the problem, and then someone can investigate it when they have the opportunity.
Yeah, if you provide the exact, like maybe delta, what happens on the second, where you expect no change, that might help someone give a second set of eyes.
Sure. So I'll create a PR on KK. I'll create an issue on the KK repo, and I'll provide the delta as well. Get this what I see in the second time.
Awesome. Thank you, Imran. And Joseph, I missed what you said because I was trying to hack up the docs here. The update code gen and update vendor, were you saying those may not necessarily be idempotent, or they should also be idempotent?
In terms of idempotency, I almost always start from a clean slate and then try all 3 again. So I actually don't have experience around this idempotency question. I was just trying to give some context that these scripts touch, widely shared files like gomod, gosum, and the full copied, vendored source tree. So it's like very natural to get merge conflicts and have to start over from scratch, which is what I thought you were kind of coming at this from, like the angle of sort of being surprised and frustrated with that friction. But in terms of this item potency, actually, I'm not sure about the item potency.
Okay.
Yeah, I did the same as well. Like I didn't want to deal with merge conflicts, so I just dropped my earlier commit and rebased it to latest master and ran these scripts again. And before running the second script, I tried to ensure okay, let me run the first script just in case again and see if everything is as expected. And that's where I saw the diff. So.
Wait, are you saying the diff was after, but like you rebased and reran the scripts and then it was different?
So I dropped the original commit that contains the changes after running these three splits, and basically the branch was pointing to the master branch, the latest master, and then I ran it again. The scripts. I can try it again, and then I will, as I said, I'll raise an issue and then I'll post the diff as well.
Yeah, I think Imran, if you could run these again and then open issues and kind of describe what you're doing and just show us the results, I think that's probably the best. And then we can kind of figure out how to address it as a team, basically.
Okay. Sure. I mean, if we have time at the end of the session, I can also show it on the screen. That is helpful.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Are there any other questions or comments about that topic? Okay, doesn't seem so. So Imran, you've got the next topic as well. Please take it away.
So the second topic is about an enhancement. Like we talked about adding a cap to egress selector configuration, where we don't want certain endpoints or a way to tell connectivity server or a way to tell API server not to proxy for certain endpoints. But I thought about it, like there could be another way where we provide a list of endpoints to connectivity server rather than make changes to the egress selector configuration, and then ask connectivity server not to proxy. Perhaps I thought that would be much more easier in terms of time and everything to get it in connectivity server rather than Kubernetes. Do folks have thoughts on that?
I can take a stab. I'm not sure how this would work, given that it's upstream from connectivity server. It's API server that makes the decision according to code path plus egress selector config, whether to dial direct or go through the proxy in one mode or the other. And by the time it dials, or I should say begins to proxy and send the request through to connectivity server, I don't know that connectivity server could then somehow push back and allow API server to then fall back to a direct dial. I don't think API server currently supports any sort of fallback like that.
In that case, I was thinking more along the lines of it still does to the right now. Folks in the community are doing along with the workaround of having connectivity agents in the same namespace, same network as the connectivity server, and using identifiers to sort of say that, okay, if, for example, for these endpoints, divert the traffic to this agent, which is in the same network, and for everything else, let it go to a different connectivity agent, which is in a different network. So perhaps we can alleviate that need for that workflow and have something inbuilt in connectivity server.
Tim, you have your hand up, please.
Yeah, I need to think a little more about what the implications of this would be for the API server, but I think from a technical feasibility standpoint, we could update the dial protocol to have some sort of option in the response that says, you know, redial without proxy. Yeah, I think something like that would probably work, and then have the client understand that and redo the dial. Because I don't think it actually returns a connection object until it gets the dial response. So from the caller's perspective, at that point, you could just do a different dial and return the connection object for that. It's an interesting idea.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was just saying it's an interesting idea. Maybe worth exploring.
My thought process came from, like, there's already a workflow that community folks we've known are following with connectivity agents in the same network, and perhaps we can think more about it, like either have that workflow be part of like a documentation, or if this workflow is not something that makes sense, or perhaps we can do better on it and have some inbuilt capabilities in connectivity server, that would, like, I felt like, okay, that could be something to work on.
Joseph, please.
Yeah, one thing that might help is it does look similar to the issue that was discussed here. And then I think there was a consensus to move the discussion over to KK for API machinery. It might help me understand if you could clarify the difference between this proposal and that discussion, or it's effectively the same, and you're curious about the feasibility of maybe like support a workaround while that's still being discussed.
Right. So, well, as I said, my thought was like it's much easier to do something in connectivity server, to bring about a change rather than doing it in Kubernetes repo, because that would involve a lot of process kept approvals from other SIGs, and if something similar can be achieved within connectivity server, I thought that would be much more easier. That should be helpful.
And then is the proposal for providing the list of endpoints that should not be proxied, would that be part of the dial request and protocol, or would that be like a static flag, like list of services as a flag or something?
Yeah, at this point, I thought it would be something like a flag that we pass to. So similar to what Walter is doing in terms of like providing a list of connectivity agent like endpoints. The connectivity server endpoints to the agent. Similarly, we provide a list of endpoints to connectivity server as a flag. Like, okay, for these addresses, do not proxy, do not send the traffic to connectivity agent. Send it directly because it's in the same network. Use something that can directly send the traffic to there.
I think there is a.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joseph.
Okay. I was going to say, I think there is a separation of concerns argument against supporting this because that agent list of endpoints for a server that Walter's iterating on, they're very related since they're both pieces of the overall connectivity proxy. But here, I could imagine wanting to like dynamically change this list of endpoints to not proxy, and sort of, it seems nicer to keep the proxy infrastructure as agnostic as possible to the workload.
I think, yeah, I'll think more about it, and I'll try to come up with more use cases, or I'll try to frame the need better. If I can do that, then it's surely worth discussing.
Tim, and I know Michael also was speaking.
Oh, sorry. Pretty minor concern, but this also adds an extra hop to the request over just doing it direct from the API server.
Okay, so it sounds like, yeah, Imran, you're going to do a little bit more research to kind of come up with some use cases, but it also sounded like maybe there was another action item in here that Tim might have been hinting at, which is that there might be a way to handle this, but it might require a little bit of investigation to figure out how to do that. Is that something we want to take as an action item, or are we okay just kind of for Imran to go and come up with some more use cases that might kind of flesh this out a little more? Does anyone feel strongly about this, I guess?
Well, one thing I will say, I think that we should involve API machinery in what we may do here along these lines, because I think that we could not do this without touching API server to support either handle the new protocol to say, oh, please dial direct for this request. Because I think there's security posture implications. So we should at least, make them aware of what we do and not just do it sort of in our little corner.
Yeah, I agree with that. If there's an existing KEP, I think adding this as a alternative to consider to that KEP might be a good starting point.
And maybe a piece of advice to you, Imran. I think if you go and just play with the API server egress, what is it? Egress selector.go. If you go and play with that, it might be a little bit non-trivial to implement this. If you never touch that code, I would encourage you to try prototyping this like pushback or like this retry if proxy server is unavailable. You might find it non-trivial. I'm a little bit familiar with that code. I can help you navigate it if you've never looked much. Feel free to send offline chats.
Sure, yes.
Okay, so I guess a follow-up question then is, does someone want to reach out to SIG API machinery to kind of start bringing this issue up? Or would anyone like to volunteer to do that, I guess, if we want to try to widen the impact here?
I would like to reach out to them, but I'm not sure whom should I reach out to. Like, who are the concerned folks over here?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do not know that the members of that SIG that well, so we might need to figure out who is a good contact to go there. Or maybe Imran, you might just need to show up at a meeting and kind of, present the problem and see what see who responds or whatnot.
Okay. I hope the meeting time is not at an inappropriate time in the middle of the night.
Well, if it's at an inconvenient time for you, then I think probably what we should do is, just figure out someone else from this working group who can kind of go and represent. And if it, I'm not sure which time zone are you in, Imran?
IST, so
Okay.
Indian time, India.
Right. Okay. So if it's during the daytime, in the United States, I'd certainly be willing to go to the meeting to represent. If you and I could have some time to collaborate ahead of time and you could just kind of bring me up to speed on it, I'd be happy to go at least present the problem there. And then maybe we could start building building some sort of bridge. And I see Tim just brought this up in the chat, so I'm just going to bring it up here. He was wondering if this is the same feature we're discussing.
This is something.
Is there another tracking issue for this issue of not proxying some addresses?
I just quickly looked. In my memory, somebody opened an issue in the APIServer network proxy repo that basically addressed this kind of feature. And then we decided to close it and move it over to KK. I think that's what we're discussing. If somebody has...
Yes, I have the link. Let me share that. This is the one, yes. Oh, no, this one. Not this one, sorry. I think I shared the wrong link.
Yeah, that's the one, and it also references the other issue that we migrated.
Yes.
To. Yep.
Thanks. I'll read through that and decide if they should be deduped.
Thank you, Tim.
On a quick skim, I agree. They look similar.
Yes. Yeah, they did. I mean, the use case is similar, but I was like thinking, okay, if the implementation resides on connectivity server end, and if it's easier, if it takes less time, then why not we think about that rather than Kubernetes?
So we've got about 4 minutes left in the meeting for the planned time that we have. Are there any other questions on this, or do we want to take a quick look at the previous issue, or do we maybe want to take 3 minutes back in our day here? All right, if nobody has further topics, then I would propose we call it here, and I will bring all the action items together down in the bottom of today's agenda. So does that sound good for everyone? Okay, yeah, I'm not hearing any objections. So thanks everyone for coming out, and I guess we'll see you again probably in 2 weeks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.